Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences, and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm very delighted and excited to welcome to the studio Mr. Molefi Nkwete, he's my guest, and I'm going to talk to him about all things retail. In fact, I'm going to talk to him about making it big in the retail space right here in BW. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I'm excited as well to be here and joining you.
It's an honor. I've been wanting you to come for quite some time. I think it's a year I've been chasing you down. But thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And would you mind telling the viewers who you are, sharing a little bit of your background?
Yeah. My name is Molefi Nkwete. As you made the introduction, I was born here in Botswana, and grew up Kotonota. That's where I went to my high school stuff, education. Then I came here, I think, to do my tertiary education, and then went into what I'm doing right now.
Did you go to UB like me?
Yes, I trained in engineering. Unfortunately, I'm now into retail. Yes.
For me, it's very fortunate for the country.
Yeah.
And what was the degree you did?
I was studying electrical engineering, electrical and electronic engineering.
Okay, and that's what your degree is?
Yes, that's what I did.
Did you ever practice your profession?
Not really. From university, I went in straight into what I'm doing right now. Full time, I'm doing entrepreneurship. I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
How did the entrepreneurial bug beat you? How did it all start?
I mean, the selling of t-shirts or what I'm doing right now started when I was at UB, when I was doing my electrical engineering course. You know, we're really into hip hop, you can call it. When hip hop was coming up, we used to obviously love the music and everything, and just the whole urban culture thing. Then that's when I started selling stuff, selling t-shirts, hats, sneakers, and everything. Then eventually I decided that I think this could work and I could take it to another level. Before we could even open the stores, most people who know my story know that I always say that we built urban soul from the streets, and that's what it is. What you see today was built on just around town, selling from one neighborhood to the next.
Okay.
From my backpack, then moving into selling through cars, then eventually we had a store.
How long did it transition for you from the street business to a brick and mortar business in a store?
I mean, it took a long time. I mean, if you recall very well that from, I would say, the first time we have super malls in Botswana was Riverwalk, right? I think
2002, if I recall.
Back then. So even then, I was still selling stuff around town from the streets before we could even have a store. So I think I would say we did that for about 3 years, moving from one neighborhood to the next. Then eventually we were fortunate, we had a 20 meter store out in the main mall, Nigerian High Commission. That's where I started having like a proper setup, like where you have a store, you have.
This was around 2000 and...
this is I think 2005.
Okay.
August.
Okay.
I remember the first time we opened our first store.
Most of your classmates probably thought, look, I'm looking for a 8 to 5 for a 7:30 to 4:30 job,
Yeah.
be sitting behind a desk, but you think differently. What does that differentiate about you? Why did you see it differently?
I think one of the things that I discovered when I was still at university was that when I graduate, I'm gonna have a job, and the limitation I was gonna get having a job was that obviously financial freedom is one of those things I was looking for. I was also looking at flexibility, you know. So for me, if I have a job, definitely I was not going to have a flexible schedule. Then also building something that can obviously sustain your ambition. You know, you want to have a great life, everything, have a successful, you know, life. But then, you know, with if you are working, it's limited. You know, yeah. So then I think the whole thing of being an entrepreneur came from that, to say that I wanted
don't want
more.
to be limited.
Yes, I wanted more, and then, you know, I knew with being an entrepreneur, I could do more. You know, I could also able to support the community if I have to. You know, like you can see what is happening right now with the COVID thing. Is the people who are able to like, let's say the government right now needs input from even the private sector, and it's those people who are able to do mainly
Make a
entrepreneurs
difference,
and
yes.
are contributing towards you know, helping the government in terms of fighting.
But you realized that early and settled on a name called Urban Soul.
Yes.
Help us understand the name Urban Soul, and what was the thinking behind it. And I know that there was a time that you called Mafia Soul. Tell us about that background.
Yeah, I mean, Mafia Soul name was came from hustling. We call it hustling. I mean, most people probably have heard that word, hustling. So because when you look at how guys used to hustle, like, because we watch movies, so the whole mafia name came from that. Watching movies, how guys move in movies, and the mafia guys trying to build a successful empire. So that whole name came from that. That's where I would say the inspiration to have the name Mafia Soul came from that. Then I think over the years we realized that the name Mafia Soul is a bit limiting. So I linked up with one of my friends who's actually the guy who did our brand, who rebranded our company.
It was
Gabriel.
about 5-6 years ago, right?
Yeah, Gabriel Motivedi.
But that was not so long ago that you changed from Mafia Soul to, to
like,
Urban Soul.
Yeah, this is like, I think after 10 years or something.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Then we rebranded from Mafia Soul to Urban Soul. Basically, Urban Soul, if you look at it, it came from we had a slogan which was called Urban Soul Lifestyle Redefined.
Which one?
Urban Soul. I mean, Urban Lifestyle Redefined.
Urban Lifestyle Redefined.
So then when we changed the name, we said, okay, we have to obviously not try to get away from the actual name. So then I just told him, okay, let's remove Mafia and put Urban. Then we made it Urban Soul. Then from the slogan, we left Lifestyle Redefined. That's how we are now called Urban Soul Lifestyle Redefined, which is our official slogan.
And most people don't know that you established in 1999.
Yes.
So that means you are 22 years now this year.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a bit confusing because people, when you say you established 1999, they're like, wait a minute. The thing is, the history of our business is not just the store right now. We started from like selling in the streets. Like when I say selling in the streets, I literally mean it. And there's tons of customers that still buy from our store who actually bought a lot of stuff from us from the streets. So when I say 1999, it's actually then. That time we're still selling t-shirts. Obviously, we're not really big. We're still a very young company. Or actually, I didn't even have a company by then. I was just selling, you know, to the next guy. Up until then, I'm moving to having a registered entity. now moving into like having a proper set business, you know, like.
And when you say we, are you just being polite, or there was a whole group of you?
I mean, the thing is, every business is not, it's not a one-man show. I mean, my business, I don't look at it as a one-man show. When I say we, I mean me and the team, the people that really are behind the scenes, or people who are on the ground, you know, running, operating the stores, that they are part of the business. And also the customers. What the biggest mistake we make is that we think, okay, if I own a business, it's my business. No, 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 no. You are just the sole director.
Conduit, yeah.
You are basically driving the car. But the business is not complete without the staff. The staff is your employees are the number one stakeholders. The customers, they are also the number. The customers actually are the main drivers. They're the one who drive the business. You know, after the employees, then you also are there. So when I say we, I mean the whole entire establishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you still have some of those people you started with way back then?
Yeah, I mean, actually, one of my guys who's been with us for a long time, he's now he's been appointed a director in the company, Mudir Nokane, very loyal guy, and he's basically one of the reasons why we are still here, still moving. He's on the ground doing operations, and he's been very, very, very fruitful to the business. And yes, some people, they come, they've been with us for some time over the years, then they move to other ventures or other opportunities.
A lot of entrepreneurs, when they are starting up, think of the problems that they encounter as being prohibitive. For instance, the problem of funding. So I want you to touch on the difficulties you encountered setting up and the challenges around funding, which people, in my view, use as an excuse for not going forward. How did you deal with those challenges?
I mean, I always try to be as honest as possible when I tell my story, when I share my stories, because half of the time people see where you are right now, but they don't understand what you went through or what you've been through over the years when you were building whatever you have, whether it's Microsoft or Apple or whatever, you see Google and Facebook, you name it. So for me, the funding of my company, I always say I used the allowance that I used to get from from government.
It started with the allowance at UB?
Yes, that's what I used to use. I think that time we were earning about 815 as a student, because for me, that was like free money, because I wasn't paying rent. I was just using it for transport. Then I obviously had some extra cash from there. Then what I did when I started the business, I deployed a strategy whereby customers fund the operation. If they want something, they have to pay for it before I bring it here. So it essentially gave me the opportunity to actually deploy that OTP thing, other people's money, to grow the business. Then eventually, what happened, I reinvest all the money. Whatever that I generated from the business, I reinvest into the business. Then, you know, I kept doing that non-stop forever to where we are today. And obviously, over the years, you look at how you can try to source funding to grow. And then we used other mechanisms which are internal, obviously, where you source smaller facilities, but not really anything
like a limited overdraft.
Yes, yeah. But I would say our business is where it is because of
the customers.
Yes, and
in terms of this funding strategy, if you can share a little bit more of it, is it a case of saying every customer should pay 50% deposit, or you want the full payment for the product before delivery?
Okay. If you look at how things are happening right now, is that a lot of SMMEs are struggling in terms of accessing funding. It's not easy, and it's not only in Botswana, worldwide. Even in the US, you go to South Africa, everywhere. Access to funding is tough, but what we have seen is that it's becoming very accessible in terms of venture VCs, which are venture capitalists, but in this side of the world, it's still very, very limited. What I can say is the model that you can use, for instance, if you want to grow your business, is the same model like I was saying, that if you are running a startup, sometimes customers need to fund your business. You know, you are selling a product, they need to pay for it before it even
I agree with
reach the
that.
ground. And then, you know, eventually, if it adds up, it will eventually bring you.
The advantage there is twofold. First, you're developing, you know, traction in terms of proof of concept.
Yes.
At the same time, you're avoiding the debt trap.
Yes.
You know, so that you're avoiding going to the valley of death.
Yes.
Which happens for 90% of startups. But here's what I'm going to ask you: where did you get that wisdom? Did you have a mentor who helped you traverse through those difficulties?
When I started, I was reading a lot. I was reading a lot. I read a lot, and I read a lot of books, like tons of books. If you go to my house, I have maybe about 100 and something, over 100 books that I had to read. I mean, what you need to understand is that I was never been I was not born an entrepreneur, so I have to educate myself.
You're not born into an entrepreneur family.
Well, my parents and my grandmother, you know, my mom used to have a salon, but I never worked in her salon, so I wouldn't say that I learned what I'm doing from the family. But my family, yes, I have my uncle who's also who was into business, but in terms of retail, definitely first generation in my family. And I had
done very well, by the way. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I had to teach myself to be an entrepreneur. By doing that, I had to read a lot. One of the books I recall very well that helped me a lot, the one for Robert Kiyosaki.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, the normal famous one. That's the one I read. I think I read it 3 times. And then that's where now everything started now developing to understand that, okay.
Join the club. Because he impacted me largely through cash flow
and I've said it many times that that's the book that changed my life. Because otherwise, I wouldn't know what's the difference between an employee and business owner, investors, and all. Then from there, I started learning more. I started studying a lot of successful people like your Apple guys, you know, Steve Starbucks, yeah. So all those guys, and then it kept on going, you know.
But let's talk about the zeros. By that I mean the period 2000 to 2010, including the Great Recession, 2008, 2009. How did you maneuver through that? What are the difficulties you had?
I mean, what you need to understand is that, you know, I started the business when I was really, really young, 18 years old. And you can imagine an 18-year-old.
You still look very young by the way.
An 18-year-old running a business. Things like recession don't really you don't record that it's a recession. I remember there was a time when recession hit, I was in the US. I remember I passed through that Lehman Brothers building, the one that had all those countries, your Singapore, where they shown where Lehman Brothers was headquartered. I think it had operations in Singapore, Hong Kong, London, and New York. So I passed through that building. People were taking pictures of that building because that time,
as it was the business was collapsing.
When the credit crunch hit. But I was up in there, you know, doing what I had to do. Didn't have to focus on the fact that it was.
So basically, you refused to participate in the recession.
I mean, then we had 3 devaluations. I mean, 2, no, during Mugabe's time. So even then, you know, the hullabaloo of, it's devaluation, and then because we import in US dollars, it really obviously impacted us in terms of exchange rates. So you'd see that we took a knock there, because it means if, say, you were paying extra amount for $1, you are now paying more.
Much more.
Yeah, so But we had to soldier on and build a business, you know, build a business with whatever that we had, you know, and then
that takes me to
take it
my
to the
next
next level.
point, because I've seen Urban Soul has penetrated into a number of shopping malls. I think I've seen you at Riverwalk, I've seen you at Airport Junction, and I think you are several other places. Tell us about the process of penetrating into the retail space and having that level of prominence, and having to sustain it over so many years. In a highly competitive environment. Tell us about the game.
Very difficult one. First of all, when we were having a store at the main mall, one of the things that I used to go to Riverwalk like every week, and I don't know, you know the idea of saying that you have to water your dream every day. So what I used to do, I used to go to Riverwalk every day, just go there, buy coffee, sit there and say, one day I'm gonna have a store here. So I remember one time we went there with one of my advisors, Manhattan, Mamen. And we were just walking around Riverwalk telling people, oh yeah, we are here today, we are buying all your shops. We went to one store, we told the lady that we are here to buy your business. The lady was like, no, you can't buy my business, why? The lady working there, she was like, yeah, we are buying the business and we're also taking you as well. So she's like, no, you can't buy this business, there's only that shop that's been sold. That's how we got into Riverwalk. So what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes
you kept pressing.
The opportunity is not gonna come to you like while you are sleeping. So us moving into Riverwalk was that's how we did it. We had to hunt for that opportunity. So like you were saying, it's not easy to penetrate these super malls because they are looking for proven ideas most of the time, because what you need to understand is that these are investors' money. They also are running, they have people to report to. So when you make a decision to say that you are going to have a store there, you have to be very, very certain that you'll be able to maintain rentals, you'll be able to compete in terms of product, offerings, price, everything. So for us, I would say that our first entry into to penetrate the high-end market was in 2008. We had an opportunity, like I said, to open in Riverwalk, which was very, very fruitful for us, you know. And then from there, we just went on duplicating the model, which
is it because of the high foot traffic in the Riverwalk area that catapulted your brand to higher levels?
Definitely. That's what happened. What you need to understand is that the more offers you what a typical street shop can give you, you understand? So in terms of consumer base, spending power,
foot traffic.
no, not really foot traffic as such, because you have malls that have foot traffic, but they don't have the high earning power or spending power for per head. For instance, you'd have, let's say, a mall that has like maybe 60,000 people a day, and then you have one that has 10,000 people a day. But then
it depends on who's walking through there.
Exactly.
For instance, you may have a whole lot of students passing through. I won't mention a mall, but there was one where you just find so many students.
And that's the confusing aspect of it. To think, oh, there's like tons of people out there, it means then no, they're making money. But then you have a low volume by high spending power.
So would you normally carry out a survey before moving into a mall to check what kind of people walk there?
I'll be very, very honest with you. When I started, I was just walking in like, okay, I just want the shop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never really look at those things. I remember one time, and I was actually very fortunate as well, because for us to go into the malls, there was another gentleman who sat me down and gave me the idea of, okay, how do you get into these malls? And he elaborated it and said, you know what, Morph.
One of your mentors, I guess.
Yeah, Bakampalai.
Hey, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
very young guy, very
Yes,
brilliant
he's
guy.
very much
He sat down
steeped
with
in
me
real
and told me,
estate.
Mof, you're not gonna go and stay next to Woolies in these super malls. You have to have a strategy. You have to have specifications of how your business is set and everything. That's how you'll be able to
get in.
to get into these super malls. Then he took me through the process, showed me everything, what I need to do. So in terms of survey, I remember there was a mall in town which was built and I said, I don't want it. But then the mall was complete and almost fully let. And then one guy sent me a survey. These guys had done a survey through, I think, Deloitte. So then I was like, oh my God, I missed out on this opportunity. So I read the whole
survey showed.
Yeah, it showed me everything, and that's when I was starting to appreciate the
Because they
retail
analyze
sector.
a lot of earning power,
yes,
the type of people, the
who's
demographics.
coming there, all that. That's when I really, really appreciated. I said, wow, this is beautiful. These guys don't just set up malls. They don't just go out and put out such a huge investment. They look at all the demographics, the numbers have to add up. So then I remember I had to run around, look for the leasing agent, and I ran to him. I said, please, I need a store in this mall. Then fortunately I got a spot there. It was a prime spot in the mall, and then boom, we went in. Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are local brands and international brands. There's a perception that the international brands have an upper hand. They can have products sourced from China, from the Far East, and they have an inbuilt advantage. But you've stayed strong and you're fighting, and in fact, you are thriving in that environment. What is the key for you?
What people need to understand is that those foreign brands or those foreign retailers actually bring in value. The fact that Abensol is next to a big retailer, it's an added advantage because that big retailer brings the people. And I'm just leaning on them as Abensol, when the big spender moves into that store, they might move into my store. So that's the science behind retail. And what I can tell you is that if you are probably doing the business right, you should be able to grow and stay sustainable as long as you understand what you're doing, looking at the numbers, and also being very, very, very strategic. You have to have a strategic thinking.
Speaking of strategic thinking, I've read a book by a guy called Sam Walton, the guy who started Walmart. And he says that he ensures that he has greeters, especially when he started. He had greeters, people who sit in the front to greet people. And I've noticed, especially at Airport Junction, there's always a guy there who's ready to greet you. Did you read all Sam Walton's book? Did you pick that idea from somewhere?
Actually, I bought his book and I've never read it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That small one.
Yeah.
I hope one day I'll read it.
It's called story. Made in America.
Yes, I know that story. I go to Walmart, I move around, I see how they do things. Generally, the business, it's not, like I said, it's about the people. So half of the time when you are out at our stores, you see our guys are hanging around the store. That's part of it. Sometimes you're hanging around there, you see the customers, you chase them into the store. They spend money, they leave. Other than where it's just traditional, everything just tense. You are sitting behind the desk waiting for the customer. No, we have to be vibrant. And if you look at our stores, we are very dynamic. We are very sophisticated. We are a sophisticated brand. A lot of people don't understand how we are doing it, but it's we invest a lot. Like if you know very well that my journey has been traveling a lot, and I when I travel, I make sure that I teach myself. I move around. I go to Walmart. I go to Macy's. These big retailers in the US. I see how they're doing things, how they're positioning the products, sourcing, and I meet people who are really, really big in retail. I'm talking about billions of dollars, not small time operations. I've seen people. Like I remember one time I was sitting to another guy. I met a guy who I told the guy who owned another brand called LRG.
LRG.
LRG. So, and this is like a guy my age, and guy makes over $900 million. So you've been thinking,
You mean in turnover?
yeah,
Per annum.
how is he doing it? Then you have to go through and see, okay, how are these guys doing it? But then you find there's a mechanism that they use to drive and build such successful companies. You know, then you look at the footwear industry, how big it is. So now we're looking at Africa, you know, to say that as Africa, where are we positioning ourselves?
You've sparked two questions in my mind. The first question is, you know, I've heard you've been my friend for some time. I've heard you say you are in Las Vegas. I've heard you say you are in New York. Are you going there to source merchandise largely,
Strictly
or are you
business.
going there as a learning exercise, or it's a combination of all these?
Like I said, what you need to understand is that I'm a newbie, so I don't know anything. So for me to excel or succeed, I have to educate myself. I didn't go to university to learn how to run a retail store or to be a retail mogul like Maynard. You understand? So I have to teach myself. So how do I teach myself? I attend conferences all over. If there's a big conference in New York, I go. I attend. I pay for myself. I go there. I attend. I meet people who are already successful in the industry, who are building successful brands. I meet and interact. I change numbers. I meet suppliers. I meet young guys who are doing great things, and I learn from them. So most of the time, it's always learning, educating myself, and also seeing the perspective of how we can transform that and bring it into Africa. You know.
Okay. Now, the second part that I was going to ask, you know, you've heard of Africa Continental Free Trade Area and that agreement. Botswana will soon be ratifying. Have you identified any opportunities that come from that agreement, specifically for the retail industry?
I mean, if you look at Africa, they say Africa has by 2025, I think, or 2050 or so. I think it's 2025. They'll have about 2 billion people, and that population consists of young people. And then, if you look at the number of
majority young people, yes,
70% will be young people. And if you look at the amount of middle class in that population, it's quite a strong number. So in terms of growth, such an agreement would definitely open doors that operating within SADC or in Botswana, you would never have that kind of access. And then if you look at the fact that the laws there will be very friendly in terms of moving goods and products and services, and then also laws, governance, all those things, the red tape that is around
stifling
the whole
business,
continent, that particular trade deal will definitely help out businesses that want to expand. So for me, I know what's going to happen with Africa. If we don't take care of Africa, somebody will take over Africa. You know, that's why those type of trades are very critical for every country in Africa to be part of. And then I'm also excited that our government actually, they're supporting that.
They're getting ready to sign, yes.
So it's a very profitable deal that will benefit a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the population, 2.3 million, as an impediment to growth, as an impediment to success. What is your attitude, and how have you maneuvered to make sure that that is not a problem for you?
I read a lot, and I read even local news. I read what the government put out, and some of it I also know about it. When they say that Choppies controls 35% of the market share in the retail sector, it means 75% or 65% it's untapped. So there's still opportunity. And if you look at Botswana is a very unique country. We are like in the middle of SADC. It means when you are doing a product or a service, you shouldn't just be looking at 2 million of your friends or your families or your cousins. You should be looking at 300 million people in SADC, because Botswana has, I mean, SADC has about 300 million people, which is Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, and Tanzania. So, and Angola.
Yes.
So,
Not to mention Mauritius and other.
yeah. So
there's quite a number.
If you are running a business,
even DRC is in, I think.
Yeah. If you are running a business out of Botswana, what should you be thinking? You should be thinking about how can I sell to a guy in Namibia? Just look at Namibia, just a few hours. I mean, I see our guys, they do a lot of holidaying in Namibia.
Yeah.
So it means they're putting business in
they're taking money there.
They're taking money there. Our guys are always in South Africa. It means they're spending money there. Actually, listen to this one. During the World Cup, Botswana was the second highest spending country at the World Cup. According to Visa, we're number 2, I think, to Mozambique.
Wow.
We spent, I think, you'll have to confirm, I think it's around 25 million in 1 month. In 1 month. So it means the 2 million people has buying power. And then on top of it, the population, I always say it's an excuse. And people always argue with me and say, no, you know, I'll say it's an excuse. Look at Choppies, Mascom. Mascom, then there's Orange. Look at the banking sector. How many banks we have? Do you look at that result?
10, 11, yeah.
How much they make, you know, from such small 2 million people. And then our GDP in Africa per capita, I think we're in the top 5. Which means
there were times when we're number 1, yeah.
Yes, the ability for a head to spend in Botswana, it's how much. So I think population is just I'll say it's being lazy to think. If you think, okay, we are 2 million, I'm not gonna make it, probably you are right.
Okay, you've diversified. You're not just about sneakers. What is your product range and which one is doing the best?
I mean, if you look at our store, we are a retail store. We run a retail brand, which is Urban Soul Stores, and within the stores we sell different products. We sell sneakers, we sell hats, we sell accessories, sunglasses, you name it. But on top of that, we started developing our own line. This one, the Urban Soul line, which is really like our number 1 product in the store. So I would say over the years we learned that we cannot keep on importing products. You know, we have to import and then blend in our brand as well, and it has blended very well. And so far, it's also growing. We are developing it into a wider range of line. We have T-shirts, we have boxing gloves, we have hats, sweaters, you name it, just the clothing range. We're definitely going to move into other lines, but we're just growing gradually.
Okay.
Know, bit by bit.
In other words, you are with those 3, but growing.
Yes.
But you have merchandise from other manufacturers.
We sell all international brands.
Do you just stamp your name on a product, or are you actually involved in the manufacturing process?
What we do is that we work with a lot of factories, like top-end factories that supply the US. Some of them are in overseas, China and India. We develop. We obviously work with guys who are into product development from scratch. Some of the stuff, yes, we could be having a ready-to-wear product, but some of them we work from scratch. We go choose the material, design the look and feel of the product, then move into production.
Okay.
Then production, then definitely we move into distribution.
I know that your business is very active on social media and you have a strong internet presence.
Yeah.
Was this a deliberate move, and how has it helped your business? How has it catapulted your business forward?
If you look at the internet convergence in Africa, it's still at a low rate. I think they say the penetration, it's the opportunity and the penetration, the gap is too much. So for us, we make sure that whatever that we know that's going to add a lot of value, whether it's a new app that is coming, we jump on it and we build user base. So right now, in terms of our presence on digital platforms, we are very, very, very strong, and we are very happy about it, and we are growing. Our user base is growing from all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, you name it. So generally, without that, it definitely will increase our marketing costs, because if you look at how things used to work, we used to do traditional and conventional marketing and advertising. So digital platform have just streamlined that cost.
It's lowered the cost of it.
Yeah.
And how do you I know that you have customers as far as the UK, you have customers all over the world. How did you manage that? What strategy did you employ?
The secret is we develop relations. We don't just sell product, because selling a product, everybody can sell a product. But in our situation, we develop relationships. What do I mean by that? I mean, before we sell to someone, we have to first of all make them become part of the family. Like, okay, jump into our wagon. Like, I'll tell you, there's a client. We have a client who's based in Scotland. He's my homeboy, and he literally took the brand there and inherit the brand and make it his.
Took ownership of it.
Exactly. So then I realized that, okay, this is a very beautiful relationship. Then we developed that and grow it, and then from there, this guy started selling our brand to all the guys in Scotland. Then he jumped into Europe, London, then all of a sudden Manchester. Then we had customers requesting now in the UK. We had more customers calling for the product, mainly Europe, then Japan, and sometimes you just start with one person. So that one person can lead you to the next guy, then everything just explodes.
Do you pay them for taking pictures with your products on? I noticed that they love posing with your products.
No, we don't pay them because if we pay them, then it's gonna be a crisis.
Yeah,
everybody gonna need to be paid.
Yeah. So how did you get them so loyal to the point of them?
You see, when you build a very great brand like Nike, for instance, people become part of the culture. You become inclusive. So it gets to a point whereby, for instance, let's say we go public. Guess what? Those people who've been on the forefront might benefit in terms of, when companies say, for instance, they go public, they do initial IPOs. So at an IPO, at an IPO, you might be called and sit on the table and say, how are you? Can we have coffee? There are a lot of benefits. And sometimes, for instance, this guy in Scotland, let's say we want to move into Europe, he could be the right guy to start with. You know what I mean? And set up there, and then you see, the business, it's about relations. So now, if I'm saying I'm going to pay the guy for taking a picture, it's an insult.
It makes no sense. Yeah,
it's an insult to the guy, and to the whole relationship, you become an insult. So you want guys that can actually say, I'll take it and run with it, for free of charge. So for us, that's what has been helping us, and it's exciting.
Yeah, you did mention your employees and how loyal some of them have been. What's your advice to other business people there in terms of how they should treat their employees for them to have an impact on the bottom line? Positive impact, I mean.
The secret of it is that you have to sell the dream to your people. And when I say selling the dream is, you need to tell them where the business is. They need to know everything. How much the company is making. If the company is making money, they need to know. If the company is not making money, they need to know. If the company is in debt, they need to know. Then they'll understand that, okay, I'm working for a great company. There's transparency. There's no a situation whereby the company made money, the boss is there popping bottles in the ocean while they're stuck here, you see. So you have to have that cultural, a culture of openness.
Openness, inclusivity, yes.
and they have to know that they're part of the business, and if the business succeed, they succeed. I mean, I've seen a situation whereby I think Saul Kesner use the same model, where sometimes he build a business and give it to the guys in the long run.
Because at the end of the day, soul, by the way.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about the legacy. What legacy do you want to leave behind? The guy for Microsoft, Steve Ballmer.
Yeah.
He became
the
a billionaire.
Former CEO.
Yeah, he became a billionaire because Bill Gates told him, no, I can't pay you, but you can work with me.
And pay yourself.
Then when he left, he obviously gave him shares on Microsoft, and eventually
he had stock options and all sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah. Then the guy became a billionaire. Easy. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now let's talk about the young creatives that you work with, the young entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What exactly are you doing with them, and how are you encouraging them?
I mean, we if you look at our store, it's mainly young guys working there, and part of it is just to share with them the knowledge about being an entrepreneur. You know, I interact with a lot of young guys. I do coffee with them, and they want to know something. I share ideas. They want to start a business. They can sit with me and share ideas, and most of them, we do business with them as well. I mean, most of the stuff that you see that is done with I don't do it. Usually it's somebody, I hire people to do that. And it's just our t-shirts, like this t-shirts that printed locally by Yam Botswana. So our digital platforms, we work with other young entrepreneurs as well, you know. So
you make them part of the value chain.
Yeah, the ecosystem is diverse. You know, then we outsource some of the services, like shipping. We don't do it. We give it to another company to do it for us. You know, we don't need to be the one delivering the product. Well, there's delivery companies. You know, so the whole chain is just diverse. Yeah.
And I was talking about creatives because I've seen you very involved with them. You know, I'm talking about people involved in, you know, video production, people involved in different other areas. What I was wondering is whether you involve them to the point where they are, you know, partners or even minority shareholders in the business.
I mean, right now, I would say we outsource services. For instance, if it's a company that's just for us, we engage them on a contract basis, or we hire their services. I mean, then we work with a lot of artists, creative, in terms of the creative side. We work with artists, DJs, brand ambassadors, the influencers. We work with some of the top influencers you have seen in Botswana, and we actually are very connected to the ground in terms of if you look at most of your, say, famous, if it's an influencer, probably we work with them before. If it's maybe an artist, we work with them before in terms of branding, you know, just using their image as well
to promote the brand.
Yes, to promote our brand. We work with
musicians and so on.
Yes, we work with, whether it's even supporting them in terms of allocating our products when they're probably shooting for their brands as well.
Somebody watching this may think that it's all smooth sailing and that you've been on top of everything, you know?
Yeah.
What would you say were the biggest setbacks or you know, challenges of a significant nature that you encountered, and how did you deal with them?
I mean, we over the years, what you need to understand is that a business grow and then it gets to it becomes stagnant,
like a plateau.
Yes. Or you can run into a ditch. Then that ditch, you have to like find a way of coming
Getting
out.
Yes.
So we've been through that. We've been in situations where we feel we like, okay, for instance, when we have molds developing into expanding and all that, then it hit our business. Then you find that maybe we ended up losing our business being affected.
Well, I heard that
Yeah.
when they were refurbishing at your mall, that one, Airport Junction. I mean, it's not a secret that a lot of businesses suffered.
No, I mean, what you need to understand, I mean, by nature, when a mall is doing an expansion, definitely the business drops, probably 70%. It happened a lot. I mean, we had one situation in one of the malls where the business went like completely down by 70%. And then it means you have to dig out of your savings or your pocket, or you have to steal money elsewhere to put in the business. But you can't do it forever. You know what I mean? And I think I've seen in South Africa they put measures in place for such situations. And then
What measures?
for instance, say the mall is doing a development, right? They'll probably have a buffer for tenants to actually cover them up for such losses. But you know, we're in Botswana, and you know how things are being done, and then you know, then also the market dynamics. I mean, what you need to understand is that we are not operating in a vacuum. The business landscape has changed. Like now everything is just global. You know what I mean? Like we are living in a global village where consumers are very savvy right now, and if you are not like moving into that direction, definitely your market share will be hit. And also there is large chains entering markets. They'll definitely compete.
In terms of competition.
Yes, they'll compete and eat your market share. So for us, it's always an issue of, okay, how do we evolve as a business? You know, are we evolving, or are we stagnant, or we're not growing? You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that I would say that we had challenges of growth, trying to grow, and some of our stores didn't do well, then we have to shut them down. You know, then, you know, those stores, then it means when you shut down, you lose money. You know what I mean? So
Because you would have petitioned and you have
yeah, I
employed
mean, on
people
average, you're looking at about
stock.
600,000 per store to 700,000. So
To set it up.
Yes, if you are losing that type of store, you're losing that kind of money. I remember we had an opportunity to open in South Africa, where, you know, we counted other things that I can't even discuss, but then we lost money in that store. So, but those things,
Talking about xenophobia, aren't you?
no.
No, something else. Okay, all right.
Those things are part of the process. You know, some of the stores we felt in terms of maintaining them, in terms of keeping them running, so we closed them down. And when we close them down, it means we close on an opportunity. We lost an opportunity.
Which makes me wonder, is the environment in South Africa that vicious? I mean, for retailers from Botswana, because Chop is closed down, you also closed down. Is it environment is vicious and competitive?
What you need to understand is that South Africa, it's a very protective country. They protect. They use it. What do you call it?
Protectionism.
Yes, that word. They are very. I know. I studied this choppy situation, and even for us, it was not mainly about protective. The business was doing great, but other dynamics in the business didn't go right, and then we had to exit the market. But even in Botswana, you would find that businesses sometimes lack adequate funding. For instance, in a situation where you probably want to expand into a market, but then you don't invest enough, then you eat out your investment before you can even start.
That's true.
Then, boom, you are out of it. And that's what happens with a lot of businesses in Botswana, undercapitalized.
As you know,
Yeah.
we're in the real estate business, so rental is a very important component.
Yeah.
To what extent have high rentals been a challenge for you?
I mean, I always say that the way I look at rent is I look at it in terms of what's coming in. So if, say, I'm in the CBD, right? And the CBD give me like high-end income, then relative to the rent, I would say the rent is okay. I don't think the rentals are high in Botswana if you compare, say, with South Africa. You know what I mean? So, but the ability to make money in high rentals, is it there? I mean, if I'm next to a guy who's making extra amount and I'm making less, then there's something wrong. It's not the rental. You understand?
It's your strategy.
If I'm failing to pay rent in a mall, then it's not the mall.
It's your strategy.
It's my problem. It's I'm the one who's failing. You understand?
Yes.
So I don't buy the story of saying rentals are too high. Our rentals are very competitive. I mean, if you look at SADC, for instance, if you go to South Africa, probably a mall costs like a fortune. You know what I mean? And there's tons of them, and which means they actually squeeze out from the consumer base. Because in Botswana, maybe we have 4 or 5 malls. It means
in Gaborone, you mean big ones.
Yes. So it means the consumers don't have a lot to choose from. That is why you find you go to one mall, it's always packed. You go to the next one, it's packed. So we haven't got to a point where I would say we are highly saturated. We're still growing. There's still tons of opportunities for our people out there to invest and build.
A conversation like this would not be complete without us talking about COVID. We are in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Some say there's been a COVID setback. Some say there's been COVID, COVID dividend advantages. Some say there's a combination of both. I want to hear your take on the COVID situation.
I mean, when COVID hit, I was in the US and I was stuck there. So I had to hunt for a flight because there were no flights coming back home. You know what I mean?
The airplanes had been grounded.
Yeah, so it was a struggle. But then when I got here, I was quarantined for 15 days. I was stuck in one room for 15 days.
In a hotel?
In a hotel. And you can imagine, you're not even allowed to leave the room. And I'm like, this is incredible. Imagine an entrepreneur in a room for 15 days.
And able to meet their customers and their
I think
employees.
Psychologically, I just prepared myself. I said, you know what, I need to move myself into COVID. Fight COVID. Because I read somewhere, one guy was saying that...
Fight COVID, you mean?
Yes, like fight the whole thing.
Yes,
psychologically, you know what I mean? So I was sitting there watching people and everybody was just in a panic. I remember, I flew through one airport, I think it's in DC, it was just empty and I've never seen something like that. There's no people in an airport. That's when it started sinking in to say, this COVID thing, it's really, really, really in. So when I got home, then I remember I got here March 28. 3 days later, the president announced that it's a lockdown. Then, you could hear everything just quiet, so then I'm stuck in a hotel and I was like, when I was flying here, I was actually like, okay, when I get back home, what do I need to do? Then I had to do something. So I now said, okay, we're gonna be closed for like a month, but the business has to operate even when it's closed. So I remember when the president announced the lockdown, the same day I launched our online store, that same day.
Wow.
And then the following day I checked the insights, everything went 1,500%.
Wow. 1,500.
1,000, I watched the
500%.
Yes. So then I was like, oh wow, this is exciting. Then, you start moving into it, you start seeing, okay, people will be home, then they'll be like, people want, they want to still continue to shop. Then we slowly, develop our little digital presence there and there, selling products online. And then 15 days, I was out of quarantine, then boom, get on the streets, navigate, find what you need to do because you gotta eat. Because I don't have another job. Like, you know, I only work for my company.
But weren't you under lockdown still? I mean, we're locked down for 2 months.
No, but then I have to provide other services. I'm an entrepreneur. So now I have to fight COVID. I have to help the government fight COVID, start supplying other COVID. Yes.
Okay, PPPs
so,
and
yeah,
so on.
PPE. And funny enough, we were doing masks, I think, a year before. We're just selling them for fashion. And then, boom, right there, we started selling masks. I remember I called a friend who was in a hotel. One of my friends, the guy you had on your show, Keno Suits. So I called him and I'm like, this is like way before they even, I think a week after they announced the lockdown. I was like, my guy, can you make some masks? This is way before we even told to wear the mask. Then he's like, okay, you think they're gonna, I'm like, my guy, you have a factory, produce the mask. Then he's like, okay, no, I'll look into it. Then after 1 week, I call him again. Have you started doing masks? It's like, nah, you know, we're on lockdown and, you know, there's no payments. I was like, okay, this is very sad. And when I came out, I went straight into selling masks. Then from there...
Branded masks?
No, just the ones I imported.
Yeah.
So then, from there, what I realized is that importing will cost us a fortune. Then we went into local production. We produced like tons of that.
You opened a factory?
No. I partner with someone. Already they have a factory, so I don't need to open one. Then they started producing masks and we sold tons of those things. Then I guess May, I don't know.
Keep going back to branded masks because I've seen so many of them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't sold masks.
Yeah.
So then what we did, I was like, okay, 2 million people gonna need a mask. And what I was doing as well was I was keeping in touch with what's happening overseas. So I think I remember one of my friends in the US was like, Mof, I think we're gonna need to wear a mask very soon. And we're still in May. I think May 15 or so, somewhere around there. Then it was announced. Mask has to be mandatory worldwide. Now think about it. We are 2 million and 2 million people have to wear a mask. Then everything just went boom. Then we start running around. We ran out of material for making masks. I remember Botswana apparently ordered one of those elastic bands and they sold out. South Africa couldn't supply. So everything COVID just changed everything. The supply chain was affected.
Disrupted,
Shipping was terrible. You know, goods were stuck overseas. I remember we had one shipment that was stuck for 6-8 months. And already paid for it. And then, you know, you have to go to the customers and explain to them and they think, oh, you charge the money. But then, you know, so then we just said, you know what, we might as well start trying to source locally. So like I said, we started working with a few factories and then, you know, trying to find really how we can keep the world running. But then, in terms of opportunities, like you said, what I realized also was that the lockdown also created opportunity because most people are out of town. So there were like few people in town supplying services, whether it's a sanitizer or a mask or whatever. So then, as an entrepreneur, what do? You just sit and say, I'm selling sneakers. No. You have to do something. So then, and I wasn't even spending money. I was just using, like, say, Mr. Mogobe selling sanitizer. I also sell this sanitizer.
Yeah.
So generally, what I'm trying to say is, it's when you're enterprising, you don't say, okay,
this is what I'm good at. I'm stuck with this.
No. Yeah. It's a crisis time. It's a pandemic time. And I was saying this to one guy. Like, one guy shared a statement saying that if you don't take advantage of COVID, COVID will take advantage of you.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. So if you don't take advantage of COVID
so then I was like, wait a minute. We are out here stuck in COVID, and COVID is just ravaging our lives. And then, you know, we are here waiting for Mabibela or thing. And then, you know, I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? We need to do something. So then we obviously started doing PPE as well. Yeah. You know, because it was needed. and there wasn't no like someone who's supplying enough to the government. You know, so
you went into
we went into it, and then the other thing that also I saw during the COVID times was that created a lot of opportunity for us was the fact that borders were closed. So which means it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And then also it gave me a concern to see that, oh my God, it means we are shopping outside. So our business started seeing the boom in terms of sales because people go to South Africa every like weekend,
non-stop, all the time,
and they're shopping like crazy. Like so, I was like, oh my goodness, the borders are closed, so we might as well have to
supply,
take advantage. You know what I mean? So, and I would say that it's a very strange development, and I was like, this is unbelievable, and it's very sad at the same time because
I want to ask you numbers, but I expect it was 1,500% again.
No, I'm not gonna tell you the numbers, but I mean the border's been closed. I think it's a miracle. I mean, trust me, it's a real miracle, and I think we need to do something about it because I mean, let me look at it this way. I mean, Botswana imports about 1.5 billion worth of tomatoes from South Africa.
A year or per month? Or?
I don't know whether it's, but it's there. You can check the statistics. We're importing about 400 million worth of water, bottled water. So it means that we typically are importing tons of stuff. So, and I also spoke to one guy. I think
we don't even make toothpicks, man.
So then I was like, okay, if this is, and that's when I started seeing a lot of people doing deliveries, you know, they're doing food deliveries. And
a lot of people woke up,
no, that's why I say if COVID didn't shake you up, then you'll never be shaken ever.
All right. Listen, thank you for that summary on COVID. Very exciting. Grab your crystal ball and look 5 to 10, even 15 years ahead and tell us what's coming out of Urban Soul, what is coming out of Molefi. What does the future look like?
What I can say is that right now, the digital migration is looking great. It's exciting. Right now, that's like our key focus right now. I don't know if you saw Amazon is coming to our shores.
I didn't know.
They're opening in Cape Town, and I know they're gonna hit a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Not in South
Bezos
Africa.
is coming.
They already got a land in South Africa, and they are opening, and they're gonna head the whole of probably SADC in terms of operations. It's gonna be very
huge.
Yeah. So now that's another major development. So as a business now, where do you see? Do you see it's an opportunity for us as entrepreneurs? So that's why I say digital migration is key right now for every entrepreneur out there. If you are running a business, you need to migrate.
Yeah, but my question is, where is Urban Soul going to be 5 to 10 years, 15 years from now?
When I say digital migration, that's where Urban Soul will be. Will be migrated.
Be online.
Be like a digital technology company. You know what I mean? And I'm not just saying this to spice up. If you look at what is happening right now, especially with a lot of brands, brands are now digitizing their operations. Whether it's products, I could be selling this to you tomorrow maybe as a digital product.
Yes.
Not a t-shirt. So that's why I say we are slowly moving into that direction. And whether it's an old design that we have that we probably gonna put online and sell or auction to you.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why I say digital migration is gonna be the next future.
So you might not even have a brick and mortar store.
Exactly. So we might not even need stores. Maybe in the next few years, we might just operate out of nowhere, maybe in a jungle. But we are able to ship product to your house. So that's where we are moving, and an exciting opportunity is gonna.
You might be moving to warehousing, where you keep merchandise, maybe.
I'll rent one from Mr. Mogobe.
I'll be happy to rent it. I'll be happy to rent it.
Yes.
Okay. You had a thing here 2.5, 3 years ago called the Snicker Expo. My companies were quite happy to be part of that.
Yeah.
But we never saw it again. Tell us about the Snicker Expo, what it was about, and why we are not seeing much of it lately. Is it because of COVID, I guess?
Snicker Expo was a concept that we set on for quite a bit. It's generally showcasing sneakers. You know, people are like, oh, what is Snicker Expo? I'm like, okay, it's a car show of sneakers. I think that was the best way to explain it. You bring your best sneakers, you show them to the people, and people might like your sneakers and they buy them from you. Generally, what happens at Sneaker Expos is that we bring in other local urban brands, or these what you call collectors, people who collect sneakers. They collect like limited edition or rare sneakers. They come out and showcase.
Mostly the Air Jordans, I suppose, since they're so popular.
Yeah. and the type of expos are done all over the world. Especially in the US, there's a ton of them, and they're quite huge. You know, and if you look at companies which are very dynamic, very progressive, they are all part of that. You know, whether it's banks, liquor companies, advertising agents, speakers, you know, influencers. It's just a whole developing industry. Yeah, where creatives are under one roof. You know, they tell their stories. Designers, guys who design sneakers, you know, retailers, companies which sell cleaning products.
The one you had here in Nonas was very successful. We had all kinds of influencers. There was a heavy buzz around it.
Yeah,
so I'm just surprised and I haven't seen one in a while.
We actually moved it to Airport Junction, and I know you are not happy. And
I want it back.
Totally believe that we'll still guarantee you the rights. I mean, grant you the rights to host it in the CBD, because you'll be in the CBD.
Yes.
But probably we were gonna expand it into more legs, because the first one we did was in Pakalani. Then we moved one to Molapo, and then you hosted us, which was also a great one. The response was very good. Then we did Airport. Definitely, we're looking forward to doing more sneaker expos. Like I said, we bring in all creatives within the regions. Probably also we're gonna bring more creatives.
How do the creatives or the displayers make money?
I mean, at the Sneaker Expo, say for instance, you bring in Abin Soul as a store. They buy a stall, and then probably they'll meet Mr. Mogobe there, another multimillionaire, and then they'll buy something from that shop. Then also, we also trying to promote other creatives with those events. Say an influencer is out there that just telling their story, and they might get picked there by a client. You understand? Then there's also designers doing different things, photographers, videographers, artists.
It's an expose, like the name says.
Yes.
Exposing people.
Yeah, it's just exposing talent mainly, and then people can be wearing the most beautiful sneaker on the day.
It's also a family outing.
Yes, yes.
The part I like the
food. You know, Black providing the food. Yes, generally it's just lifestyle event. Yeah.
All right. This is the part of the show, Mr. Nkwete, where you get to ask me a question, any question within reason. I'll try and answer it.
Wow. This is a very tough one. I would say that as an entrepreneur from Botswana, what do you think is what's the reason why we are having so much negativity towards each other as Botswana, but we ululate when it's a foreigner succeeding?
I've often wondered.
I mean, in your context as a property developer or property mogul, you've done very well. And what is your experience in terms of?
Yeah, it's a big question. I've thought about it a lot.
of the character what we have as Botswana.
What you're asking about is the pull her down or pull him down syndrome, which is a PhD about which we are not proud. I think there's a recognition that there's this thing of Botswana. So Botswana. Botswana.
Oh my God.
So that there's this concept or this idea has somehow been ingrained in the culture in unusual ways, where we do not want to see each other succeed. Where if you are a procurement officer and you have two tenders competing, everything is equal, and you're asked to choose the one for Motswana and one for non-Motswana, you end up choosing a non-Motswana one. It is something that is there, and we have seen situations where even civil servants who are successful tend to really be very, very dismissive of talents which are local, tend to be very negative towards anything local. I think the only solution, as I see it, is to work on rebuilding pride, work on building our self-esteem, to recognize that the problem is there, but to proceed anyway.
Yeah.
I have seen it, I've fallen victim to it, and Ramachan talks about it extensively in his book, The Magic of Perseverance. In fact, there he simplifies it that he was fighting government and government was fighting him.
Yeah.
He's just perhaps just being very careful to make it a government issue, where it is really a national issue. You and I are examples of situations where we learn to work with the system, when we learn to accept that this is going to happen, where even statistically that, sooner or later somebody will be holding a big knife trying to stick it on your shoulder blades, between your shoulder blades on your back. So you have to expect that and constantly be working at mitigating the results of that. We've had situations where we've lost opportunities unreasonably and without any justification on paper, and then you have to live with it. So I think talking about it, recognizing that it's a malady, it's a weakness, it's an endemic problem, which is almost
it's a disease.
It's a disease. It's a disease which is embedded in our
DNA. How are you going to solve the disease?
We have to keep working on it in the hope and belief that the next generation or the coming generations will cure themselves of this. And
so
how do we go about it?
You mean it's a generational curse?
It could be if we're not careful, but curses come to an end. And how do curses come to an end? And my belief is that if we raise the culture of entrepreneurship, let me finish. If you raise the culture of entrepreneurship and promote entrepreneurship, like we're doing in this show, like we talk about it, the ones who are coming behind us, second, third generation entrepreneurs, because you and me are basically first generation entrepreneurs. The belief is that if we work with other cultures, like sometimes I try to do with A&B, Angel Network Botswana. I work with other cultures together with Botswana, and we're saying entrepreneurship requires a group effort. By the way, I'm going to try and recruit you into the Angel Network Botswana, where we invest into businesses of startups, into businesses of upcoming Botswana. So I think only by doing that and mentorship. I have a mentorship program, and then you have an informal mentorship program as well, where we are trying to influence those who are coming behind us. We recognize there's a problem. We realize that it's endemic in our culture, but we move ahead, notwithstanding. I think that is my approach. I hope I've answered your question.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I've traveled in the US. I've seen they like embrace their own stuff. I mean, you see at the Olympics, US team is wearing Nike, Germany Adidas. And so I've seen Nigeria right now with the music business. They just exploded because they made sure that locally they are rallying behind their own, and also their businesses.
And on a positive side, we have a little bit of that when the Zebras are playing. We do try. But
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
it's not as much as other cultures, but we're getting there.
We need to do that with businesses as well.
Yes.
Yes, people support businesses, but then we must also
Yeah.
put a stamp and ululate more.
Mr. Nkwete,
Yeah.
you have to look at that camera if you don't mind.
Yes.
Talk to that aspiring businessman or aspiring entrepreneur, whoever is listening, and leave them with words of inspiration and encouragement, something positive from our discussion.
Yeah. All I can say is that the Mogobe
Nuggets of wisdom.
Nuggets of Wisdom. It's a great platform. Please follow them on that channel and subscribe to that channel. You're definitely gonna get a lot of wisdom. This is like something that you've never heard before, and unfortunately, you can't get it from the university. It's first-hand information. I've watched some of their shows. So what I can say to you guys is that believe in your dreams, believe in yourself. I know that you can do it even if you fail. Even if people ridicule you, just believe in yourself. Wake up every day, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a winner. And go out and fight and chase your dream. Thank you.
That's wonderful. If people want to converse with you or to interact with your businesses, or what are your contacts on social media, and where do they find you?
You can follow me on @Mov Global on Instagram. You can follow Avensol page on Instagram as well, @Avensol Stores, @Avensol Apparel. That's another page that you can follow. You can also follow me as well on YouTube. I'm launching my channel, by the way.
No problem.
I'm
Do
gonna
invite
have,
me.
I'm gonna have you on my show. And then on Twitter we are there as well @Avensol Stores. We are on Facebook @Avensol Apparel. Yes. Okay. Those are all even our online store.
Where are the stores so they can go buy?
www.avensol.car.
All right.
Then the stores are at Apple Junction, Riverwalk, Letakani. Yes, that's where you can find this.
Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful and powerful guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.